This is the introduction presentation to the Safety Leaders Training Series. My name is Ed Sterling. This presentation may be a refresher for you of material that you have seen in the past, or it may introduce you to many safety-related items unique to Kelly Paper. The objectives of this presentation are to share with you the strategic and cultural values that Kelly Paper has around safety, touch on PaperLink's philosophy about ES&H and to tell you what ES&H stands for, along with define some other safety-related acronyms, and we'll take a look at the safety leader's role and what it means. Then we'll finish off by having a little bit of fun with a safety video. So let's get started. Many years ago, as Kelly Paper reviewed and defined our top strategic priorities, one of them was to preserve and evolve our culture. And a significant element of that was to drive a safety culture. But what does that mean? Well, it's not enough for the company to just put out a bunch of safety rules and tell people to be careful. Having a safety culture means embedding safety as a fundamental priority for the company. It means that employees at all levels of the organization recognize the importance and embrace the need for employees to be safe. These are some of the elements of that effort. We'll start with the visuals program. Throughout the company, in the stores, warehouse, and at the corporate office, we have put up visuals, photos and sayings which capture the spirit of our safety program. This one is key because it is absolutely true. Nothing is more important than leaving work in the same condition you arrived. But why is that true? Well, for one thing, injuries equal pain. That's a good enough reason right there not to get hurt. But another consideration is that our loved ones don't want us to be injured or in pain. That fact was the source of this banner series. Your loved ones, your family, as well as the company depend on you. No one wants you to be hurt. An injury can compromise your ability to pursue your normal recreational activities, whatever those activities may be. And for most of us, our normal workday is difficult enough as it is. Certainly, if we are injured, carrying out our normal duties will be more difficult, if not impossible. Another reason to be safe is that after an injury, you'll find yourself making trips to the doctor's office. Remember the last time you were at the doctor's office? The waiting, the smell, the needles, the poking and prodding. Sure, they're trying to make you better, but if you're like me, I'd rather not be there in the first place. And how about this? If you are injured and are unable to work, you can expect only about 2/3 of your normal take-home pay. Let's think about that for a moment. Think about immediately reducing your income by 1/3. Will you be able to meet your obligations? Neither will most people. So in summary, all of these reasons add up to you don't want to get hurt. So what are the responsibilities of all Kelly Paper employees around safety? Pretty straightforward. Work responsibly. Don't take shortcuts with safety, ever. Be mentally and physically ready to work. Stay in shape and stretch before lifting. Use proper lifting techniques. Know where you're going to put an item down before you pick it up and ask for assistance when needed. Always use the proper tool for any job and use protective equipment such as proper shoes, harness, high visibility vest, gloves, or any other appropriate equipment when working. Lifting belts are also available. Be aware of your surroundings, remedy or report any hazards, and immediately report any work-related injury. I know I just said this, but it bears repeating, and I put it here in the most eye-catching font and color I could find. Immediately report any work-related injuries. Not next Monday, not the day after tomorrow, immediately. Here are some straightforward safety facts. The vast majority of the injuries that occur at Kelly Paper are preventable. Most are strains or sprains. Back injuries are extremely painful, so be careful. Lifting a carton by the strap is prohibited, and foot injuries have been fairly common. So what's the bottom line? Be proactive with your health and well-being. Work safely for 8 full hours. Let's take a look at the economics. Injuries cost Kelly Paper in terms of lost time and productivity for both the injured employee and management. Customer service. When an employee is injured, they are not able to service customers as they normally would. Extra workload is placed on other employees because their fellow employees sometimes need to cover for them. More rules. You know, safety rules can be reactionary. After something happens, we put in a rule to keep it from happening again. So more injuries, unfortunately, yields more rules. Increased workers' compensation insurance costs. Under Kelly Paper's workers' compensation insurance arrangement, if we keep our incurred costs down, we can receive a rebate of some of our insurance premium, which is sometimes significant. A loss of rebate causes severe financial strain affecting our EBIT and compromising our incentive payments. And so it goes. Nothing is more important than leaving work in the same condition you arrived. This should be your daily goal. What are some other elements of a safety culture? Well, the actions of management, of the safety leaders, and all employees of Kelly Paper are part of the culture. Some examples are your district manager asking if you're being safe today, the company president asking about the safety program in your store, warehouse employees correcting safety committee members on infractions. That happened to me, by the way. A warehouse employee called me out for being in a restricted area without a safety vest. I rewarded him with a gift card. Everyone knowing that when there's an injury, there is going to be a detailed investigation. Each employee knowing that if there's a hazard, that the norm is that it is reported and or remedied. All employees stretching before doing physical work. These things all lend themselves to our culture. Safety culture is a journey. It doesn't just happen overnight. This slide captures the safety philosophy at Paperlinx. Culture, as we have been discussing, our attitudes, behaviors, and norms of safety. Systems, the processes, procedures, audits, and documents that we use to implement our safety program. And physical, the physical environment of our buildings, the machinery, and equipment we use. Without all three of these elements working in proper balance, we cannot have a successful safety program. But with all three working together, we can have a good, safe place to work. This slide is ripe with acronyms, and as I mentioned earlier, I would define them. So here goes. Common acronyms: PPX, Paperlinx; PPXNA, Paperlinx North America; ES&H, Environment, Safety, and Health; OH&S, Occupational Health and Safety; OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration; MTI, the dreaded MTI, Medically Treated Injury; LTI, Lost Time Injury. So you are likely viewing this presentation because you are a safety leader. So what does that mean? Where do you come in? Safety leaders lead by example through understanding the culture that we've been discussing, by implementing the systems that have been put in place to execute the culture and accomplish the goal, by ensuring the facilities are sufficient and safe, by soliciting and making suggestions to improve safety and implementing those suggestions where feasible, by sharing best practices. As with many other facets of life, attitude is everything, and this can be fun. Ensuring that your team goes home safely after every shift with no injuries or incidents in itself is rewarding. Speaking of fun, I thought I'd end this segment with a little comic relief and some examples of things not to do.
Oh, hi.
John has been asked by his employers to make a safety video.
You never want to see you stack your items too high.
So far, it's a little straightforward, so John decides to spice it up with a little acting. First, he demonstrates the risk of standing on wobbly crates. Then, he shows the importance of always paying attention to where you're going. His next safety tip, the grocery hand truck is not a scooter. And finally, one of the most overlooked employee hazards, dangerously stacked piles of soft paper towels. John quits goofing around long enough to demonstrate one last important reminder.
So just take in mind, safety first, always.
Slippery when wet.
Oh, you blink. Oh,
I hate to break this stage with your safety fellas in your car.
It looks like John's viewers aren't the only ones who learned a lesson from this video.
this is what happens when you don't pay attention. Got an alley.
If you're doing a grocery store safety video, always wear a helmet.
Oh, you blink.
Thank you for joining me for this Introduction to Safety Leaders presentation. If you have any questions about any of this material, feel free to contact me at extension 207 or your district manager. Please continue with the second module in this series.